Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Flatiron Syndicate Motorsports Podcast. This show is brought to you by Flatiron's Tuning, your source for any aftermarket or OEM Subaru parts. Be sure to check out our store at flatironstuning.com and stay tuned with Flatiron's Tuning. Welcome back, everybody, to the Flatiron Syndicate Podcast. We are here today with a special guest who has made a very long journey to join us on the podcast here, Mr. Damien Bradley, all the way from the UK. You might know Damien if you have seen kind of a blue or a green first-gen legacy time attack car, hill climb car from the UK. That is Damien's driving, and that is his car. Team Legacy UK is the YouTube channel. And Damien, we're talking to you today because you got accepted to the Pikes Peak Hill Climb. So in just a few short months, you and your car are going to be over here to actually compete in the hill climb for the first time.
Sure. Oh yeah. Quite excited about it. Quite nervous too. But it's a huge honor to be accepted.
Yeah, it's really neat when we saw, like, sometimes there's not very many Subarus. There've been a couple of years where we were the only Subaru, so we like seeing a couple more of these Subarus coming over and joining us up on the mountain. It's good to see.
I think so too. I think it's great.
Yeah. So Damien, as a start, because there's probably a lot of folks that are watching that are not familiar with the car or whatnot. I kind of actually want to start with motorsports and driving. Like, how did you find motorsports first off?
So my legacy was a road car initially. So GC8s were a popular back. So I've had the car 14, 15 years.
Okay.
Um, and GC8s were popular. But the legacy was a little bit more understated, a little bit cheaper to buy. But it was a road car that I wanted to tune. And the GC8s would attract unwanted attention. They were stolen, and the boys in blue would
Mm,
be keeping an eye out for you. Whereas the legacy was quite stealth. So that was part of the reason that I got into them. The four-wheel drive transmission, the column carry background was a little part of it. There was some of the rally pedigree of the early legacies that I liked. But the main thing was the tunability of the platform.
mm.
People were manufacturing huge amounts of products even back then for the GTA platform, and I thought um, most of these bits will maybe fit a BC5 Subaru Legacy. Later, I discovered that pretty much everything does.
Yeah.
It was just the 60 mil longer prop shaft, 60 mil longer body was the one thing that kind of was the separation between the two types.
Yeah.
So that was a road car. There was no intention of doing anything motorsport wise apart from occasional track days. And then a friend of mine rolled her R32 GTR in time attack.
Oh.
And that kind of then forced my hand. And the car was caged for doing track days, and there was a few other bits and pieces done on it. It wouldn't have taken a huge amount to make it eligible. I just needed to do my arts competition license, and a few other bits and pieces, and then we would be. So at that point in time in Time Attack UK, you could sell your place. If you weren't able to attend, you could then somebody else could
Okay.
buy your place from you. So Fiona Kindness was the lady that rolled her GTR, and she offered the place publicly on a ScoobyNet forum or a 22b.com
Okay.
forum, and I decided to take it on. So lots of rushing around, prepped the car, did my first time attack event in the Club Pro class. And even though I was invitational, so you couldn't affect the overall standings, I finished third in Club Pro in my first time attack event at Silverstone Circuit in the
Oh, wow.
UK. That kind of gave me the bug, and I decided, right, let's do a little bit more of this. So I did some sprints and some more time attack. I knew a guy called Stephen Darley, who's now a huge part of the team, and he had featured in Japanese performance magazines with his GC8s. And there was another group of other people, very like-minded people in GC8s, and they were probably a little bit intrigued about the legacy and the differences in it. But they were quite happy to support me. Stephen was quite happy to support me. So 2014 was our first full season of the UK Time Attack Championship,
Wow.
which went really well. So in the deep end, It went really well. We finished second overall, second in our class, which was in club four-wheel drive, which was fantastic. Met some great friends when doing that. And then time attack changed a little bit. Some of the friends that we'd made had gone off to do other things. Stephen Darley has been started doing some hill climbing. I went along to one of the hill climbs and I watched Stephen drive up a hill in Scotland called Doon,
Hmm.
which is a very, very tight, narrow hill climb. They're very short, the hill climbs in the UK, much shorter, obviously significantly shorter than Pikes Peak, but
Sure, sure.
um, the shortest record I have is 27.7 seconds. It gives you an
Wow.
idea of how short they can be.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, I went to watch Stephen Darley, and I was physically shaking at the side of the hill climb, watching him out of fear of what he was doing on such a narrow, confined space. With back then, I think it was probably it got to 700 horsepower even back then in
Wow.
2016, 2017. So Stevens, he used to be called the Gearbox Destroyer because he broke all the PPG boxes and then
Hmm.
got into sequential boxes and he was breaking those as well. So he's been around the Subaru scene for a long time and is very experienced. So as I say, I went along to one, watched and was just petrified and thought that you have to be a screw loose to want to take such a powerful car up such a narrow strip of tarmac.
And this is
Uh,
and this is compared to time attack. So
Compared to time attack, yeah,
yeah.
because time
Okay.
attack there's lots of runoff, big circuits in the UK, lots of runoff, lots of practice laps. You get to do not your practice session in the morning. So we were getting back then 4 20-minute sessions. So 20 minutes in the morning for a warm up, 20 minutes
Hmm.
practice, 20 minutes qualifying, and then a 20-minute final session. And that gave you an opportunity to dial the car in, dial yourself in, get used to the track, get used to the conditions. Whereas hill climbing, as you know, turn up to the start line on an average weekend here, we get two practice, two timed.
Oh
So you
wow.
need to get it right. You need to get it right from the off. We normally set the scene with our first run up the hill and need to be somewhere close to the times that we want to achieve in our we generally don't turn the boost down a huge amount. We normally need to be very close to race pace from the off. Um, and you can obviously encounter some challenges that changes in the track conditions and
Oh, yeah.
uh, things like that.
But it's addictive, yeah?
Hugely,
Yeah.
hugely. It's such a buzz. There's nothing else like it. Going back to time attack now, going back to circuit racing or a race of BMW E46 M3 as well at times, and going back and doing stuff like that. I've done a race called the Burkett 6 Hour, and it's amazing and it's great fun and there's great group of friends and we all have a great time. It doesn't even get close to catching the buzz that you have
Ever,
Hmm.
ever
racing.
since I started doing hill climb and stage rally, I don't think I could do another endurance race. I would probably fall asleep in the car.
I, I get it. I don't want to be disrespectful to so many friends I have that's their thing. Um, I just think that if some of them gave hill climbing a go, they'd just be like, "Wow, this is
So
amazing."
we have a local club in Colorado called the Colorado Hill Climb Association, and it's a big party. I mean, there's a bunch of classes that are geared toward rally cars, but there's also a bunch of classes that are geared toward dirt modifieds, NASCAR chassis, midgets, bikes, quads, all stuff like that, and it really is quite a party.
Yeah,
And this is the Colorado Hill Climb. Those races are all dirt.
Oh yeah, they're all
yeah.
gravel.
Oh, they're all gravel. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
So
Yeah.
lot more crossover with rally cars and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got more rally cars coming into it in the UK now. So I've campaigned quite hard to get Hill Climb Monsters some coverage here
Mm.
in the UK. So Rodrigo, who runs the Hill Climb Monsters YouTube channel, is a good friend of mine. I've watched the European hill climb monsters compete, and I'm in awe of everything that they are allowed to do within
Mm,
their rules and regulations. The single seaters or the Formula cars from Europe are the ones that are historically in the UK. That's what hill climbing has always been about. And there's some incredibly talented drivers. There's people like Alex Summers who's building his own car, single seater car now, and taking on the hills. So there's some great stuff there, but I feel that for me, my heart and soul is in the saloon cars,
mm,
and the hill climb monsters and what that stands for. So I've been pushing hard. Myself and some others have managed to get our own runoff. So I'm not sure how it works with the hill climbs in America, but certainly in the UK we have a top 12 runoff, which is always features the single seaters. It's the 12 fastest cars at that event in the timed run. So timed run one, the top 12 cars get an additional run called a runoff, and you
okay.
score points towards the championship in doing that runoff. Very, very seldom, and I mean very seldom, has there been a saloon car get into that runoff. But the
Hmm.
legacy's been in three times now, I think. Once at Harewood, which we believe had never been done before by a saloon car. So to be in the mix with them, it's normally when they're changeable conditions. So normally when the rain comes and goes, and you end up with a drying track. As you guys know, the Subaru four-wheel drive system comes into its own.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Honestly,
Well,
with that kind of experience, it sounds like you'll be well prepared for some of the conditions you find on the mountain here.
yeah,
So
Um,
John Alcon has been out with you guys several times, sponsor of the event, and John came to an event called Quick 60 here, which was actually an event on a circuit, Mallory Park. So it wasn't actually a hill climb. And John watched me compete in changeable conditions and said that day, I need you and this car to come
mm,
with me on a little journey.
yeah,
Um, so that kind of started the ball rolling, and then John and I discussed moving things forward, and that's when I then became an Alcon ambassador, which is a huge deal for me.
yeah,
To be on that page with Oliver and Petter Solberg and others is incredible in a BC5 Subaru legacy, you know. So
yeah. That's
um,
awesome.
yeah,
Huge accomplishment. I mean, there's like you were saying at the beginning, there is some serious racing heritage with that chassis. Um,
yes,
I still remember seeing because it was Colin McRae started in the legacy, and I think his teammate at the time was Carlos Sainz Sr.
yeah,
And
yeah,
there's some really cool pictures of like I'm remembering the Monte Carlo rally with that
yes.
legacy that just like it looks the business. And
It
so
really
it's
is.
yeah, it's cool to see another like how far you've gone with your legacy and like to see kind of some of that Subaru heritage coming back
Yeah,
currently to compete on the hill.
I think it's kind of taking it to maybe Group B levels, well beyond maybe Group B levels. What could the Subaru factory have done with a BC5 platform back then? How far could they have taken it? I'm originally from Ireland, so I was born in Ireland and I lived there until I was 6 years old. But I've a lot of family back there, and I go back regular. So the Donegal International Rally is,
Hmm.
that's the one where you want to see all the. You'll see all certainly from a spectator perspective. There's a lot of legacies. I've bought and sold a few legacies as well and sent them back to Ireland, and they absolutely love an early legacy over there, and that's
Yeah,
fueled probably a little bit what I do as well.
for sure. Well, I mean, you're tapped into that heritage. I mean, you've got the right car for it for sure.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think you've gone farther than what Subaru
yeah.
would have done with the Group B even at
I
that
mean,
time.
watching your onboards, you've got a capable grip driving car there. So I mean, the combination of your aero and other like anything you've done to your suspension to facilitate that grip driving, I'm super curious about that.
yeah. Well, there isn't really any aero,
Okay.
and that's a big thing for this event. We we feel that anything we do with the car, we try to do right, and we try to source go to the right people, and get the right resources and develop the car. So Mick Gardner Racing is the supplier for the suspension that's on the car. So it's Öhlins TTX 46 that's on the car. And that was probably the most expensive purchase we've made towards building the car to date. But also the most significant advantage that we've ever
Yeah.
done out of anything we've ever added.
Wow.
I was in racing in Portugal. I did the FIA European Hill Climb Masters, and I was out there with Ross from Mick Gardner Racing, and we'd been out and we'd had a few beverages of an evening.
Hmm.
I think it was about 4 a.m. When Ross said to me, "You need Öhlins on your car." I said, "Yes, I do, but we need to talk figures."
Yeah.
So he did me a little bit of a deal, not much, but a little bit of a deal. We shook hands at 4 a.m. And then when I arrived back in the UK, I said, "Oh, what have I done? What have I done?" Um,
Well, but it's
so
going to
he
pay
said to
dividends.
me, he thought I could get up to half a second on the hills that I had been on before from moving from a Nitron um,
Hmm.
damper through to the Öhlins.
Hmm.
Really?
Um, the largest increase in time or the largest improvement in time we got was 2.5 seconds improvement on
Wow.
a
Wow.
45-second hill.
I,
And the
and
smallest was 1 second. So
Hmm.
if somebody said,
nitrons are not eBay
no,
shocks,
No.
so that's impressive.
yeah. So those were Nitron GC8 dampers with some tweaks. Um, and the Nitron suspension was great. We were happy with it. It was the support, which is back to the aero side of things, which is if we are going to go down the route of making a change to the car, it needs to be done right. And I need to have the support and the right people behind me that can help me get the most from that modification. I don't want to bolt on a big rear wing and diffuser and splitter, massively change the look of the car. I know I've done that already with the wide arch, but I am desperately trying to retain some of that retro look of the car, not make it. I'm friendly with Andy Forrest, and Andy Forrest built the Stormtrooper, which went out
Hmm.
to World Time Attack. And I was disappointed in how much Andy had changed the look of that car and took it away from looking like a GC8 and more like a. And I've got a lot of time for Andrew Brilliant, but another Andrew Brilliant creation
Hmm.
of wings and what have you. But don't get me wrong, what he's achieved is incredible. Just would try and keep mine a little bit more retro style, a little bit more looking like a BC5.
Well, and I think too, there's an advantage in keeping the car familiar because
Yes.
you're very familiar with the car, you're very familiar with, the setup and the platform now, but you're taking it into this whole different environment. So keeping everything familiar and not introducing a lot of variables, I think that is a good plan, especially for your first year running, because that I think you're going to feel a lot more grounded as you start running up the hill versus if you've made a bunch of changes and you're kind of having to relearn the car and figure out the environment at the same time. That's a lot.
You stay on my first trip, meaning potentially more.
Well, sure. I mean, there's some people that you get the bug. Our driver
Yeah.
Scott, like I think this is going to be his 13th year, 14th year.
Wow.
Just kind of came out
Wow.
of nowhere. Now it's just like it's like clockwork every year. He's
It's a good
signing up.
thing.
He's excited. He's looking to the next run. And yeah, I mean,
Yes.
you only get one. Like you were saying, you get like two practice and two times. Like the weird thing with
Hmm.
Pikes Peak is you only get the one shot on race day of the
Yeah.
actual whole run. You can kind of practice in
Mm.
sessions, but you only actually know what it's like to drive the whole mountain in the race environment once. And
Yeah.
that's sometimes it just
Exciting.
it gets under your skin. Fair warning.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the financials of it might determine how many times we can have a go at this, and the fact we have to bring the car back to the UK, we can't leave it out there for
Mm.
sort of more than 12 months. So yeah, we'll see, we'll see.
How much can you give us an idea of some of the logistic challenges of even just like taking your car from the UK and shipping it over here? I mean, it's mid-February as we're talking here. The race is 4 months, give or take, away. Like how close to ready do you have to be right now because of the shipping time and all that?
Here we go. You ready for this?
Okay.
We need to ship the car in 5 weeks this Friday. Um, as the car sits at the moment, it doesn't have a wiring loom of any description.
Oh boy.
The wiring loom that was in the car is currently on the floor in my garage, in several pieces. It's been an issue with the car. It was a bespoke motorsport wiring loom that was in the car, but it's had several issues over the years, and with a project like this, we couldn't take any chances. So it's having a full new wiring loom installed by a company called Relentless Performance, a guy called James Middleton, who's currently in
Mhm.
Florida.
Oh, okay.
Um, so he isn't actually starting the wiring loom until he gets back from Florida on Sunday.
Okay.
Um, so the clock is well and truly ticking. Uh, we had to make some changes to the roll cage for Pikes Peak. We didn't really have to. I spoke to technical at Pikes Peak, and the cage was near enough there. They just suggested there were a few bars they'd like to see. So above my head, there was a bar running from the main hoop forward to the bar that runs across the top of the screen. They wanted a V,
Hmm.
and an additional bar by my right leg where the chassis leg runs along. So for any boulders,
Hmm.
impact of that sort.
Mm.
So we took the car to a company called Roland's Motorsport, and the cage that was in the car was done 14 years ago, back when I first started out doing some track days and then into time attack, by a local hot rod guy,
Mm.
who was really proud when he told me he'd put 90 kilos of, I don't know what that is in pounds, but 90
Yeah.
kilograms of roll bar into my car, and I was horrified with the additional weight.
Yeah.
But he'd used a product called an ERW tube, which we didn't realize until we cut a tube out to make some changes and add the additional bars. So Andy Rowland said, I'm not touching it. I'm not getting involved in it because I can't stand over it. This is the wrong bar. This is the wrong tube you're using. And we need the correct roll cage in that car if you're going to go out and do this event. Um, so that left me with quite a big challenge. This was 2 weeks before Christmas. I'd
Wow.
allowed 3 days for the roll cage editions, and everybody else was then programmed in to do every part that needed to be done. So back to a bare shell on the suspension. The Samsonite sequential gearbox was still in the car, and so was the prop shaft, hubs, and the Alcon brakes. So that sort of running gear side of things, no engine, none of that was in there. And then I sat and had a think, looked at the cost, looked at the time, spoke to Andy. Andy cancelled a load of customers, squeezed me in. We had a brand new, it's still the CDS cage, it's a CDS cage, it's not ERW. We didn't go T45 because we've heard some stories about T45 cracking around the world.
Mm.
Whether that be the case or not, I don't know. But it was what Andy was comfortable with. It was the product that he liked to use, and it meets all the regulations. So Andy constructed a new international spec, FIA international spec roll cage with the additions for Pikes Peak, so which created his PP01, his first
Mm.
ever roll cage for Pikes Peak. But that cost us 5 weeks and a chunk of money.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
bananas. I can't believe
Yeah.
you had to recage the car.
yeah,
Oof.
But so good to like find out when you had enough time to correct it and get it properly set up, and hopefully you'll never need it. But if you do, now you've got the proper protection around you. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So we had a spare engine, which is a huge luxury. I run a 2.35, so an EJ22 from you guys,
Hmm.
which I've been bringing a few of those over to the UK, and 2.5 crankshaft, and then 2 liter ABCS JDM big port cylinder heads, with lots of work done to those. So that's my engine, and my engine builder is a guy called Mike Latimer. Mike Latimer's in the Merchant Navy, so he's gone 3 months, and then when you get him back for 3 months, you go like, I need
Yeah.
this, I need this, I need this. So he had built me a spare engine about a year ago, and that's been sat in a crate. ready for the time I needed it. On one of my most recent events, towards the end of last year, Shelsley Walsh, where I took the closed car record there. We don't really work with closed car records, but for some reason Shelsley has this
Hmm.
thing. So Shelsley's the oldest running motorsport venue in the world. So it's got a huge amount of history, and I'm now the fastest to have climbed that ever in
Wow.
a closed gym. So that was quite a big deal. But over the finish line, 122 miles an hour, we had an issue,
Hmm.
and I lost cylinder number three, the big end bearing on cylinder number three, which I didn't know at the time, but just before Christmas then, we were planning to put the spare engine in the car, or rather the crate engine that we had ready to go in, and then the engine that was in the car was going to come out and get a quick refresh, and that would then go in a crate and follow the car out to Colorado should we have a disaster and we needed to change the engine. We'll come down to you guys, we'll use your ramp, and
Yeah.
we'll pull the old engine out, we'll put the new engine in,
Oh
and
my.
we'll be back out.
Let's not make
Um,
that a tradition, please.
No. Hopefully
Let's
not.
No, 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 no. I just want to cover all bases.
Oh yeah.
So that's the plan. But when cylinder number three bearing went, we have contamination in the oil lines, which are convoluted oil lines. So they're all going to now be replaced. We bought enough material to have spares. So if the same thing worse were to happen in America, we would be able to make up spare hoses. Yeah, it was in the oil pump. So we
Yeah.
run the Roger Clark Motorsport dry sump system on the car. I sent the pump off to Auto Verde. I spoke to Matt Clark, and I said, just ship it direct. Let's cut the middleman out and go straight to them. And it went out with his approval. The pump got lost in customs.
Oh no.
And it will, so we were due to have the pump back 4 weeks ago. It will arrive with me tomorrow.
Okay.
So we've not been able to make any of those oil lines up or anything really
Yeah.
until we get that. Exhaust manifold, we had issues with that. So the cooling pack is the big thing for you guys. That's,
Hmm.
the car's overheating
Hmm.
on Pikes Peak. I've been told that time and time again. I've probably been told it by 100 different people
Hmm.
that the one reason you're not going to get to the top of that hill
Yeah.
is going to be the car's going to overheat.
I mean, frankly, a lot of rookies struggle with it. So
Yeah.
we're
Well,
all used to hearing that.
So we thought,
yeah.
right, we've always run a standard GC8 radiator in the car, with a cowling and twin fans, spiral fans on
Hmm.
a cowling, and that's worked well for us for a 30-second hill climb or a 60-second hill climb. The radiator's nice and light, it's well made, so that's what we've always run, a GC8 radiator with a bespoke front mount intercooler. We've now gone, all that's come out, and we V-mounted the intercooler. We've created separate ducts in for the radiator and for it's all a bespoke
Hmm.
triple pass radiator. And it's all bespoke, all very, very high quality. But the one thing we've really focused on is how the air will get through the intercooler, the radiator, and how it will get out. So we
Yep.
have a new fiberglass BC5 bonnet, and we've cut a huge slot out of that, and it will all be ducted up and out the bonnet, creating a high pressure ridge at the front,
Hmm.
and low pressure dip at the back, so we can get as much of that warm air out of the engine bay as we possibly can.
You're checking a lot of boxes here.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Yes.
Super
So
curious who you worked with designing and testing that system.
So Matt Clark has had significant amount of input into. I've told him what myself and Stephen Darley and Paul Blameyer, who does my tuning, he does all the ECU work for me. He also does the gobstoppers.
Mm.
So Paul's incredibly clued up in everything Subaru. So he between the three of us, we had some ideas as to what we were going to do with the intercooler and the radiator, and then I've told Matt some of these ideas, and he's put me straight on a few bits and pieces. And then we went back and made some other changes. The car is going to do more. It's not just being. It feels like at the moment it's almost being built specifically for Pikes Peak, but I plan a lengthy career in, or future, some sort of career, but a future in hill climbing in the UK and Europe. I'd like to
Hmm.
venture into Europe and do some more European hill climbs. So we need the car to function here as well.
Yeah.
So things like a cowling on the back of the radiator. Matt said, he thinks that for Pikes Peak, we need to remove the cowling because the fans won't necessarily be doing a huge amount, certainly cooling the car as we approach the start line. But after that, as much air as we can get through that radiator core, the better.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
so the cowling will now become removable. The last phase of the works that the company Ali Sport will be doing will be the car will go to them and they will make these changes. And then we'll be at RCM, hopefully mapping on the 7th and 8th of March. That's the
Wow.
plan.
And then
Yeah.
in
And
just a
then
couple more weeks
right.
to
Yeah.
like, can you shake the car down at all before you have to ship it over? Or
Yeah, that's the plan. So I've found about 6 different either track days or test days. I'm not a huge fan of track days when we are focused on trying to achieve something with the car. There is a venue called Blighton Park, which is a great test venue. We may well go there, or I'll do a test day at a circuit. We'd like to get the car out and absolutely hammer it for 20 minutes,
Mhm.
which isn't something we've really done before, because everything I've done has been short, high intensity but short duration. So we think if we can get the car to the point when we're having to close off a large element of the radiator and the intercooler to get the car to work correctly in the UK, then we're kind of getting close to where we need to be for it to perform
Interesting.
in Colorado.
Yeah, that's wise. Yeah,
Yeah.
it one of the weirdest things, like you had mentioned, aero too, is like there's so low air density, or such low air density, and as you're going up, the density just keeps going down, and that's the challenge with the cooling side of things is that there's really a point where you just can't necessarily even rely on air because there's just so little of it. And if you ever start like even taking like a jog up around Devil's Playground or something like that, you're gonna realize how little air there is because it's just like just a couple little jogging steps and all of a sudden you're just like, I can't breathe. Like what's going on up here? Yeah, it's just and the car's going through the same thing.
Yeah, well, I've been
I
training hard as well myself to get my fitness. I'm trying to get my fitness up better. I've always maintained a reasonable level of fitness anyway, but I've really ramped that up now
Mm,
with the intention of just,
That's a
not
good
only
point.
having the car the best, having me the best as well that I can be.
yeah,
I mean, as John was talking about earlier, the fact that it's, basically at night after a whole hard week of practice and testing, you know.
yeah.
Um, so I'm curious, are you thinking about different power goals and performance goals operating here versus your short hill climbs in the UK?
Yeah. So when we took the record at Shelsley Walsh, we were running 3 bar of boost.
Okay.
So yeah, all of it. Might be the reason why the bearing on cylinder number 3 didn't really like what was going on.
How much power was it making at the time? Do you know?
See, our power is very different from your power.
Hmm.
So on RCM's dyno, it would have been high 800 horsepower. So because yeah,
That's very respectable from my perspective. So
That's a lot.
yeah. So our aims for Pikes Peak is 600, 600, so 600 brake horsepower and 600 foot-pounds torque. That's what we would
Okay.
like to see as an average. So start off a little bit higher than that with the basis of sort of losing somewhere in the region of 200 horsepower. So we can start somewhere around the 700 horsepower mark, and the car performs well at that and is happy at that, and then taper down to the sort of 500 horsepower when we get up near the peak. We'll be running a map sensor, and the car is having a turbo designed by an ex-Borg Warner technician, even though it's a Zona Rotor that's going on it, Zona Rotor technicians and a guy called Andy at AET Turbos here in the UK. So
Hmm.
they're all between them, and Paul Bainmeyer are developing a range of turbos. So I think we're up to about 4, a choice of 4 at the moment. So we will
Yeah.
go and do our test day at Brighton Park. or wherever, and our intention is to go out on one, and that will then steer us in the direction of which turbocharger we think is going to be best. We run an anti-lag system in the car as well, so it's a fresh air system. Turbo Smart
Hmm.
produced a fresh air system that works incredibly well on the car. It's the one thing I really don't want to lose in turbocharger choice is the punch out the corners. I've
Okay.
watched so many videos of cars going up Pikes Peak, and where the legacy I love with the legacy is it's the pull out of corners is phenomenal. It's just got so much
Hmm.
punch out the corners. And I've watched some of the Porsches going up Pikes Peak, and they just, even though they're crazy fast, they're doing astonishing times. It just seems to take ages when they come out of the corners. But is that altitude that, is it the steepness that I'm not seeing from the sim or from videos that even mine, when it comes out the corners, it's just going to be very dull. Jeremy might have a better.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well,
What kind of gearing in the driveline, what kind of top speed have you set the car up with? Because that is definitely a factor, the amount of torque you need to make those hairpins and get through them and get back on the power fast.
So our original gearing on the car was geared for 235 miles per hour.
Oh,
oh,
okay.
okay.
It's now, so the highest speed I've hit on a UK circuit is Goodwood. That was 170, 169 miles an hour. So the gearing is now set at 174 miles per hour at 8,500 RPM in sixth gear.
Okay.
Okay.
Um, there is a small step between fifth and sixth gear. There is a little bit of it. So 1 to 5 is quite tightly packed. So it's closer to rally gearing than
Okay.
it ever was before.
Okay. That you I'd
I'd be
be
shocked.
surprised if you get over 140 on Pikes
Yeah.
Peak. But I mean, even if you have four usable gears, five usable gears,
Hmm.
um, you'll be all right. And it will mean that you probably have to shift a little bit less, which could be an advantage. Our gearing, I think our top speed currently, currently with the engine in the car is about 135. So
Okay. Yeah.
much
Yeah.
Is it
shorter.
that, is it that short?
Yeah.
And that's what the Modena
It's
gears,
the, yeah, it's the
the
group
rally
bend
gears.
ratios. Yes. Which for Pikes Peak, like to your question, Damien, about the elevation, the thing that you'll see once you get there is the elevation gain between Glen Cove, which is where the little shop is, and you're still below tree line, and then up to Devils is extreme. Like
Yeah.
that's where all of the switchbacks are, the W's, and like just going the climbing that you're doing there, that's the majority of the climbing. And then you get to Devils
Right.
and then it flattens out and it
Yes.
becomes more sweeping again. So like there's three really distinct characteristics of the hill. Like the bottom
Yes.
is flowy. Then you get into Glen Cove and Glen Cove to Devils. That's the tight technical part, and it is quite steep. Yeah, so
It
there's a
is
lot of
it
climbing
is a
going on.
proper climb. It's a climb in the way that you don't see in a hill climb, which is
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
ironic.
But the thing is, from watching and like what you're talking about with like the hill climbs that I've seen you doing, it looks almost like a Rally Ireland stage where you've got like
Yeah.
so the road is narrow, everything is so tight. All of that experience I think is going to pay off because it's a little bit wider than that, but
Mhm.
you can't really use the width in a lot of the spots because there's nothing else there. So like
Yes.
if you're willing and able to work within the tarmac that you have, that will serve
Yes.
you well.
That's
Yeah.
actually a very good point. Some of the proper racing lines you might think of if you were just looking at the road, you can't actually do because you'll bottom out.
Yeah,
Yes.
Or
Oh, okay. Yeah.
especially up top,
yeah.
especially up top. Um,
Okay.
and Davian, I have to ask it. I apologize that it's taken me this long. I want to hear about your perspective on Pikes Peak as the race in general. Like
Oh, I
how
was
did
wondering, yeah,
yeah,
how
like
did you
what do you think of Pikes
even
Peak and
yeah.
why is it that like as soon as you got the opportunity to do this, you basically have put all of this energy in motion to make it so that you can actually come to this event?
I think it is widely regarded as the most extreme hill climb in the world. It's hill climbing is now. I've not been doing it forever, but I feel like it's in my blood. I feel like I've found my calling. This is where I need to be. This is what I need to be doing. And Pikes Peak to me, as a road, is. or a climb is the most extreme. So I have an opportunity in my life at the moment to make that happen. I'm in a position racing wise where I'd even be considered for it. And I have the support of some fantastic sponsors that are going to help me get there and do it. So yeah, anything after this, yeah, I don't think it's gonna measure it. Good friend of mine, Chris Beresford, came out last year and watched the hill climb, and he said that some aspects of it are very like our clubby events. So a load of great friends getting together and doing a
Hmm.
normal hill climb, and then other aspects when you turn around and you see Romain Dumas and the Ford team there, or an Audi team or whatever is just crazy.
Hmm.
So it's got everything, and I just want to tick that box. I've been off and done different things. Last year, I did the Isle of Man, the Manx Classics. So we raced on the TT course, which was incredible, closed road through, not so much town centres, but certainly on the fringes. That was one of my bucket list. So Pikes
Yeah.
Peak has been on my bucket list for some time, but I never ever thought that I would be in a position to be considered good enough to do it, or that I would have the people on board that would support me to have this, make this dream a reality.
Wow. It's so great. I mean, it's going to be great to see up there. It's so cool to see the excitement that you bring to the event, and it's going to be a good experience for you. I hope, and I'm sure that it will be. You've checked so many of the boxes that I think catch people out. Um, I think it's going to be a good week for you.
So I'm really looking
Yeah.
forward to it. I think it'd be good. Cool to have a different Subaru on the hill as well. I'm looking forward to being among friends, among the rest of the Subaru community. I
Hmm.
have some friends in the surrounding areas who've got Subarus who are coming along. There's one guy coming along who's actually made pretty much a carbon copy of the Legacies, who's got the same APW wide arch kit. Whether he's
Oh
going to bring
wow.
the car or not, I don't know. He's in the process of doing a H6 conversion on that, which has always
Okay.
been something I've considered as well, but front end weight, and let's stick with the RCM theory of four cylinders is enough. So
Yeah.
I think that's been proven out, certainly at the kind of racing and at the power levels you're aiming for. Working with RCM has very clearly paved the way to a ridiculously good formula for time attack Subaru. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and
uh,
especially for hill climbs and stuff, like if you're trying to do like endurance events, then having the extra cylinders probably stresses it a little bit less. But for those short bursts, if you
yeah.
can get it done with four cylinders, keep it simple. Yeah.
But this is pretty much an endurance event, is it not? For me,
Oh
it
yeah.
is.
oh, absolutely, yeah, 100%.
Yes. Um, I mean it is the hardest thing about this event, and to a large extent, is the fact that it's takes place over an entire week. And it's I don't know, you maybe you have a sense for it, but you're teching on Monday. You can kind of shake the car down, like a lot of people will go to the Pikes Peak International Raceway, which is a track just up the road, and just kind
Okay,
of shake the car down. But then like Tuesday through Friday, before the
you're
sun
on.
comes up, you're on the mountain just doing testing in little sections. And then
Mm,
it's like, even though you're just doing these little um, testing sessions in these mornings, you'll be amazed how much you have to go through the car again after you get back
mm,
down. And then, I mean, usually getting up at, I think I usually would set my alarm at like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning to wake up, leaving the hotel at like 3:30 to get, to the base enough to get early enough to get up.
mhm.
It takes a physical toll, just the time, just the weird times that you're running the event. And then, yeah, you have Saturday to load up and then just wait, and then
It's.
get back on Sunday, and then okay, now this is the one shot for all the marbles. It's just very
Mm.
strange.
Well, I'm hoping that maybe I might be able to run a little bit on UK time still, but I'm going to come
Yeah.
out for the test at the end of May.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do that 3 day, is it 3 days testing, but or whatever that test period.
Hmm.
I need to look into that more, but that's my time to unload the car, and I think John's arranged for the car to go to Rob Holland.
Hmm.
So we're going to go to Denver, and then I will collect the car and then transport it to to Colorado and then or to Pikes Peak, surrounding areas, and then do the testing, and then that's going to be, driving the car on the road or starting it even in Denver and driving it along the road will be the first time that my tuner will have any data of elevation and be able to make adjustments to the fueling and stuff. We're also going to
Yeah.
run T85, so Torco have been a sponsor of mine for many years, and they're providing E85 or a
Hmm.
T85, which will be the first time we've moved to that type of fuel in the car. We've
Okay.
traditionally just run 102, so just a
Yeah,
regular unleaded fuel. So,
mhm. That will help.
so yeah, it will help. I hope it'll help it be a bit cooler. Obviously, you're going to use larger amounts of fuel. So we've gone with a much larger fuel
I
cell.
was about to say, with your
Yeah,
race, the race periods you're doing, you're probably running a much smaller fuel cell over there.
I always ran too big a fuel cell anyway. Just I've had a relationship with radium for a number of years, and so I've run like a 30 odd liter, so it's a 10 gallon or
Really?
whatever, and
Okay.
now I'm up to they're like I think it's a 14 gallon uh,
Okay.
tank in the car now. So
You'll be fine.
um, yeah. So we can freewheel back down, can't we?
That's
Yeah.
right. Well, we've always run a 10 gallon, and that's enough, especially in testing, because you're only going like 3 or 4 miles. So we can do like 3 or 4 or 5 tests, and then, yeah, on race day, just fill it up with all 10 gallons, and it's enough
Yeah,
to get up, get down. Yeah,
great.
you'll be fine.
That's good.
He's making
Yeah.
more power than you, John. He's going to use a bit more fuel,
Well,
but
that's true. That's true. Well, you got 14. You got 14 gallons. We're only at 10. You got 14. You'll be fine. You'll still be
Good
fine.
stuff.
and
Good
you're right.
stuff.
And hell, we'll get another Subaru to tow you down if
You can
You can
toast
just
it.
run out
coast.
of
You
rally
can just
style.
coast. Yeah. No, there's always a way down the mountain. It's getting up that's the
Good.
challenge. Yeah.
Great stuff. Good.
Well, and Damien, you've kind of mentioned this, but just kind of tell us again, like, because you're working on the car and just a couple friends that are helping you. Like, who is the crew that's actually helping you put the car together? Like, how many of you are there?
Yeah, so there's myself, Stephen Darley lives in Yorkshire, so he's 4.5 hours away from me. So at the weekends, this Saturday morning, I set off at 4 a.m., drove to Stephen's, and both himself, him, and his son James worked on the car. James works on tractors most days and lorries and does sort of fabrication. James is, I think he's 21 years old, so but he's super talented and super eager. And as I said to you about Stephen's history in Subaru, so that's those guys, and then outsource some bits and pieces. So Mike Latimer, as I said, built me a new engine. But in terms of sort of the installation and building the car up, installing the fire extinguisher, so Lifeline has given us a new fire extinguisher. We've got that going in the car. All of
Hmm.
that kind of stuff. That's me and Stephen. So like, 16, 17 hours Saturday, same on Sunday, coming home and then working 60 odd hour a week. 70-hour week in a family business, building
Hmm.
houses and flats, construction, and staying married. Um,
Yeah.
two young kids at home, not that young, 15 and 12. So
Okay.
Kalen is my boy, and he's coming out. They're all coming out.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, so that's us. So
Wow.
all today juggling work and ordering the correct bolt kit for all the bells on the rear brakes that we've now changed from the ones that were previously on the car, and special fittings for the Alcon pedal box that we had no idea it was going to require.
Mm.
And it's up there on a technical drawing, but we're sort of club level stuff here, and the pedal box that Alcon produces normally in like an LMP car or a GT3 or GT4 car. So they have a group of engineers or a team of engineers that are used to using these specialist fittings every day of the week, and we're trying to put it
Right.
into a 500 pound BC5 Subaru Legacy that I bought 15 years ago from a little old lady.
Yeah.
So all of that
Little
is
adjustment.
challenging. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
But we're having great fun doing it. Yeah, but it is.
it's a lot.
Matt Clark and I talk probably twice a week. and you obviously you may be aware they're looking at coming out next year.
Hmm.
So Matt's coming out with me for race week, and he's going to be there on the spanners. So who
Hmm.
else? Who better would you want? You know, him and Stephen Darley,
Seriously. Wow.
two great guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, it's great. So Matt and I talk regular, and that's just like you're another level to the length that you're going to in order to fulfill this dream is just crazy. So you're running on adrenaline a lot of the time. But
Yeah. It'll all pay off. I mean, you're doing so
yeah, yeah.
much. You're making a lot of right decisions, a lot of good decisions. So I think
Good.
it'll pay
That's
off.
reassuring. Yeah.
Yes. Well,
So,
and go ahead, Jeremy.
I was gonna say, I mean, I, do you know anything about Colorado's relationship with Subarus?
Really, no,
Many,
I don't.
many
Not
people here
massively so.
consider it the official car of the state
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
because
I had no idea.
a combination of, the frightfully bad winter weather we get sometimes, a lot of people living out off dirt roads in the mountains on the Front Range and all that. So there's a lot of folks who, still daily drive their 80s or 90s Subaru wagon to work up
Hmm.
and down their dirt road.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of Subarus out on the road of all sorts. Anything from, from like an old first generation Forester with,
Yeah.
27s and a big lift on it, all the way down to, your WRXs, your STIs that people tear around. Hell, I daily drive an SVX. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
I,
on you. Good on you. So I've had six SVXs. I don't have any
oh
currently,
wow.
but I have had six SVXs. So,
yeah,
um,
there's a gentleman in Colorado who takes his SVX to stage rally.
oh
Oh
wow.
yeah.
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 Wow.
Still some big followers for the SVX here. But yes,
Fantastic.
I'll bet you, Damien, that you're going to be surprised how many people come up because of the first gen legacy and tell you like how much they love that car, or like
Yeah.
they had one so many years ago or whatever. I bet you
Yeah.
it's going to be more people than you'd expect.
You got to make sure you
Mm.
work it into your scheduling to get down to FanFest with the car, that our little
Hmm.
sort of car show festival that we do down in Colorado Springs. I say little, it's a pretty big ordeal.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. That's
you can do
definitely part of the
a lot of
plan.
things.
Yeah. I think that'll be good. It's supposed to be, yeah, a great part of it. So yeah.
Yes. Well, Damien, as we're wrapping up, I've asked you a bunch of questions, and I can't say
Mm.
that I can answer them, but as far as the event goes or anything of what you're into, are there any questions you have in your mind that you could throw out there that maybe we can, help give you a little bit more insight into?
I think, like we've said, I've researched so much. I'm really excited by the prospect of the Subaru. Especially the excitement over the earlier Subarus. I think that's great. The tips you've given me on drinking lots of water and everything. You hear these sorts of things and how cold it's going to be. People tell you these things, but until you actually speak to somebody who's done it, you can't get an appreciation for actually how much water or actually how cold is it actually going to be.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's I think some of the questions are going to be around, I'm going to need some help. Like you point me in the right direction for, as I said, truck and trailer. Where do I go? Do I go to U-Haul or whatever?
Yeah.
That's all very different. That's all going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got accommodation kind of sorted. That's through John at Alcon. He has a friend with a place out there, so we're going to go and stay there. So that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just going to be, there's probably going to be lots of questions. At the minute, I'm probably a little bit burnt out. I'm looking
Yeah,
forward
it's
to the
okay.
car actually going.
Yes.
So once the car's in that container, I think then I can start sort of planning things. So we booked flights last night for race week. I'd already booked for the test week.
Hmm.
So all of that's sort of going on now as well. I've got regular meetings. So this will be as big as I make it. So I have journalists that I'm in contact with. I have other Zoom calls. There's I want to make this a real big thing for hill climbing. I want to make it a real big thing for Subaru. I'm in discussions with Subaru UK about their involvement in it, which would
Oh
be
wow.
great. It'd be great to speak to Subaru USA and see, can they do something to raise the profile of this event, to raise the profile of hill climbing, and to keep these, keep
Yeah.
our Subarus going, keep the excitement going. So,
That's we've kind of tried, and they're very funny about like really getting involved in anything that's not like what Subaru of America is doing. But I mean, heck, if you can get Subaru UK on board, that would be really cool. And maybe we can point people, look at what Subaru UK is doing. I mean, and you're here.
yeah,
Why
yeah,
don't you talk more about this event? Because there's been at least one Subaru, sometimes us being that one, but there's
yeah,
always been one Subaru for over the last decade. So
yeah,
there's more, just like yourself, that are they're wanting to run that platform. So hopefully Subaru
yeah.
pays attention.
I'll tell you one thing. When you get off the plane for the first time, you're going to see at the airport, I'm sure they're selling bottles of oxygen. Don't worry, you'll
Oh,
be fine.
yeah, it's not that bad. It's not that bad.
I'm sure
It's
it'll be fine. I'm going to take oxygen in the car. Is that something that you guys, does everybody do that generally or not? Is that
well, our driver doesn't,
Yeah.
but he's very like
on site?
he's a big skier. Like he's up in the high elevations quite a lot.
Okay.
But like yes, I think once I think it was
Become very
Sebastian
common.
Loeb. Yeah,
Yeah.
Sebastian Loeb was I think the first person to do that or one of the early people to do that. And then everybody's like, well, that just makes all the sense
Yeah.
because yeah, I mean, if you can make sure that your brain is getting enough oxygen to make good decisions where there is no oxygen, it just kind of fits. No, I think that's
Yeah,
wise.
of course. Of course. The other thing I'm a little bit nervous about is scrutineering. I think everybody
Mhm.
has nerves around that because
Oh yeah.
obviously you're just concerned that you've done something wrong and you're the other side of the world and it's a bit late to be dealing with that. So I'll probably touch base with technical again, just run through everything. As I
Yep.
said, Lifeline have been involved and they've sort of spec the 3 kg plumbed in fire extinguisher
The
system and
fire
Yeah.
system. Yeah.
everything. We go overkill with a lot of the stuff on the car as well. I run a Bosch Motorsport ABS system on the car,
Hmm.
and there's lots of bits and pieces in it. Hands device, obviously, and
Hmm.
decent seat, and all the things to keep me as safe as possible. So hopefully we get through that. I think that will be the
You will.
first big sigh of relief.
Yep.
And then when you do as a rookie when I come out there as a rookie for the race week, I need to complete each of the stages or each of the practice runs. I have to get to the top for each of
Yep.
those. I assume as a rookie, you just find your way up the first time to tick that box and then sort of apply a little bit more. Is that generally what people do? Or
I think that would be wise. And I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
you'll get it when you practice, especially at the end of May there.
mm,
Usually those early practice dates are not as packed. Like what you'll find is like there's probably going to be less than half the amount of people at each location in those early
okay,
practice dates compared to race
yes,
week, for instance. But
okay,
a lot of times there's snow, which is crazy. So this
okay,
past year, for instance, for those early practice dates, I think we stopped just above Glen Cove because there was still
okay.
snow all the way from like Devils to the summit.
Wow.
So you might not actually be able to see the whole road, but
Yes.
it's just it's a flip of the
So
coin.
so top, I
Just
think it'd be great. Yeah.
yeah, just
Yeah.
see what kind of mood Mother Nature's in. But yeah, I mean, if you've got to complete all the sections, being conservative and not pushing too hard
Yeah.
to make sure that the car stays together,
Mm.
yes, that would pay dividends. And then when you come out here for those practice too, if the whole road is open, especially like take your rental car and just go up and down a few times so you can actually, even though it's not at speed, see
Oh,
the
yeah,
flow of the whole
absolutely.
road.
Yeah. And also get an idea of how much cars don't like driving all the way up there.
Yeah,
It's
Okay.
true. Like, yeah, even turbocharged street cars struggle.
can. Yeah. It's funny
Okay.
at Glen Cove, there's a spot where you have to stop to check your brakes. And it's
Okay.
because so it's like the reverse when you're coming down. Now you're coming down such steep hills that you have to stop to check your brakes to make sure that you have not been riding the brakes too much to the point where you're getting ready for a brake failure. So yeah, it's just even just driving up at 25 miles an hour, it can pose its own set of problems.
Oh, wow. Okay. One question I also got you,
Yeah,
tires.
yeah.
So
Oh,
tires is something. So what do you guys run without giving away the trade secrets or whatever? What's the general consensus? What do people tend to run? Slicks?
Yes.
Flicks and a rain tire.
You have
Yeah.
to have the rain tires, and what we have always we just have a set of rain slicks. I think we've got a couple sets of Continentals, and it's one of those things. Well, so for the actual tire itself, so we run Hoosiers and we run R7s.
Yeah.
Um, the now that we've started putting tire blankets on them, and that helps a lot to get them warm so that they're ready to go initially. In testing, it actually made even more of a difference warming them up because since you're testing it, like especially in the upper sections, it could be 30 degrees. You're almost never going to get those slicks hot, so you're never really going to get a feel for what like the grip level is of the tire necessarily.
Yeah.
Um, we've actually we were running there's a couple of the practice sessions we were running the was it the AO52s, the Yokohamas, which is a 200 tread wear tire with some tread on it. Um, and that can get you a feel, but like the slicks, it's there's a whole nother level of grip there, but the surface can change significantly um, because of all the dust and everything like that blows over the road. I mean, it will change from one day to the next, and it like for instance, many times the race on race day will not start at its prescribed time because it's frozen. The road has got ice on it, for like the last mile or something like that. And you have to wait for the sun to come out to melt the ice. But
Yes.
that gives you a sense of like how much moisture there is still that's freezing up there, and then it thaws, and then there's the runoff. So like it's clearing, you know, stuff
Now,
off the track.
if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken, excuse me, in your UK hill climbs, it's pretty common to have pretty marginal weather in terms of moisture.
Always, it's very, very rare to get a warm, dry run on the hill. 2023, I think we had three dry events all season.
Wow. That's
Wow.
going to serve you well.
Mhm.
It maybe just for practice, but still like and I guess the other thing related to that I will tell you on qualifying, there's a lot riding on qualifying. It's not the end all be all, but
I'll ask
but
you this, okay? So how
so
does that work? So your practice sessions, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they are also your qualifying sessions.
it's whenever you're on the bottom section.
Okay.
So like if you come in and on Tuesday you're on the bottom section, that is your
Yeah.
qualifying day. Because qualifying
Okay.
is from the start line to the end. Like that's basically the first sector that they leave all of the timings in place uh, for that bottom sector just as it would be on
Oh,
race day.
Yeah.
And so
okay.
that's where qualifying helps because the better you qualify, then the earlier you go on the mountain. And
Yeah.
the earlier you go, generally the better chance you have at having good weather. Because
Okay.
almost there a couple times lately we've had full like everybody first to last gets a dry run in good weather. Like last year we had that, a couple of years ago we had that, but then I can't remember if it was
The year before last,
22.
the whole first two-thirds of the day, the entire top of the mountain was fogged out, and then it cleared up
Well, and there
for
there
the
was I think it
real
was
big.
21 or 22 where basically fog came in and there was no visibility and they stopped the whole race was stopped at the Devil's Playground.
Yeah,
So
that's
nobody,
when the Bentley, the fast star
yes,
Bentley. Well, yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So like weather's always going to be a factor, and that you're well prepared for that. But that's where having the rain tires helps, and maybe like that, like a 200 treadwear, like depending on
Yeah.
conditions, it might come in. Yeah.
Hmm. No, good to know. We have our tires ready. We have an intercut. We have a wet. They're
Hmm.
all the last of the Avon tires because I worked with Avon and we
Hmm.
developed tires. And one of the tires we used an 046 compound. We've used that at I don't know what your conversion is, but our 5 degrees ambient, so just above freezing.
Okay. Yeah.
So just above freezing here, and got very close to the hill record, or to the class record on that tire, with it being almost freezing. So that 046 compound works incredibly well, but it doesn't have the longevity that you would even dream of running it on race day. So
Yeah.
the 800 compound that we developed with Avon, that's the one they use in Europe for significantly longer hill climbs. And we've had one of those cut to an Inter. So it may well be the
Something
tire
like
of
that.
choice, but we will make a call.
Yeah.
Get out.
You've
We'll
got
watch what you
some good
guys do and
tools.
do the same.
Uh,
It sounds like you're
Yeah.
stepping down the power a little bit, so that will certainly help with the longevity.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that and the fact that the midsection can be marbly also will probably help with the longevity a bit too.
Yeah.
You're going to
Yeah.
be not going to be braking as aggressively in some of the corners.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah. Damien, seriously, you're doing like so many things right. You're doing a great job. You're going to have a good week. I can feel it.
Fantastic. Good. Excellent.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to it. It's really exciting.
Yes. Well, and I should let you go because it's early for us, but it's very late for you. So I want to let you get on with your night and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
No
thank you so much
problem.
for like as soon as I reached out about coming on the podcast, you're like, absolutely. How about tomorrow? And okay, here we
No,
are.
I need
no,
to get these things done quickly because I don't know what I've got coming up
Sure.
next in terms of everything.
Oh
Is
yeah.
it going to be a crazy couple of weeks of late nights?
Yeah.
We've left RCM in the past at 4 a.m. from tuning, which I'm sure you guys have done a similar thing,
Oh yeah.
trying to get the car ready. I really hope that doesn't happen this time, but let's see how things
Yes.
go. So, but I'll keep an eye on. I'm trying to do blogs from my website now, so they're always there because I think that on all social media channels, everything
Mm-hmm.
just disappears. You don't get to see it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to try and keep things up to date. So keep an eye on that.
Well, so
Yeah.
and I'll put a link to it, but tell folks where they can go for that. What's the URL?
Yeah, so www.teamlegacyuk.co.uk. That's the website, and then Team Legacy. You look up Team Legacy anywhere, you'll find, or Damien Bradley if you Google it. It pretty
Yes.
much comes up pretty much with
I'll
us. So.
I'll put links to the description. If I've
Great.
done well, they will be up on the screen right now, and you'll see links there. But
Great.
definitely, yeah, we're excited to see it come over here and see what you could do. And
Get to the
hopefully you
top.
don't
That's
beat
it.
us too
Just get me
badly.
to the top. That's all I want to do.
There you go. There you go. Yes.
And I
Fantastic.
gotta say, anybody who's still watching to this point, go look up the Team Legacy YouTube because I mean, literally a couple days ago, I was looking at the entry list trying to see because I couldn't remember if a friend of mine had been accepted or not, and I noticed a 1992 Legacy, and I'm like, what the heck is this about? And I go Google Team Legacy, and immediately seeing your onboards, I was transfixed. And then yesterday, I was telling John, hey, did you see this guy who's entered a Legacy? He's a
Mhm.
crazy driver, and it's like, oh yeah, we're talking to him tomorrow. Like, oh, there you go.
Yeah. True
Great
story.
stuff. Great.
You're
True
already making
story.
waves.
Good to meet you both, and
Yes.
yeah, look forward to seeing you all when we get out there.
Yes, we'll see you at the peak. Well, thanks very much, Damien. Thanks to you, everybody at home. Thanks for your support as always. Check out Team Legacy UK or over there, whichever way. And until next time, stay tuned to the Flatirons Tuning.
Great stuff. See you guys later.
Thanks everyone for tuning in to the Flatiron Syndicate Motorsports Podcast. Once again, we'd like to let you know that your support is what makes this show possible. Be sure to check out our online store at flatironstuning.com for any of your aftermarket or OEM Subaru parts needs. And as always, stay tuned with Flatiron's Tuning.